Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk. My name is Nia Toshkova and I'm a biologist from Bulgaria. And over the past 2 years, even a little bit longer, we have been creating an escape room in a museum. And before I start telling you more about it, have you ever been in an escape room? Can you raise your hands? What was your experience? Oh, everybody, wow. This is the first room. Oh, no, okay. That's why you wanted to leave before. Okay. What was your experience? How did you like it? What was the type of escape room you visit? Anybody brave enough? Yeah?
It was a horror escape room, and we almost burned out the whole building because there was a paper that we needed to burn in order to complete it. And we put it on the ground, and the ground started melting and everything.
You're definitely not invited in our room in this case. Yeah, actually, escape rooms are a great way to combine education with also developing of soft skills as well. So it's not only about learning new things or escaping a room, it's about how you collaborate with everybody that is inside the room. So it's a team game, and that's why these type of approaches are really useful in education. And actually the personal reason why I wanted to do something like this is because of one research paper I read like a few years ago, where scientists were discussing that children in the UK knows more names of Pokemons than scientific names of animals. And I thought this is ridiculous. And I thought we need to find a way to integrate children and not only children, but everybody into the issues of biodiversity and, of course, climate change. I work in a museum, and actually the museum I'm working in is one of the oldest museum in the Balkans, and we're having a huge collection of animal species from around the world, and not only. And a few years ago, I was thinking how we have all this diversity of life form, but like the only thing that is kind of an educational output from this is just seeing those things and how diverse they are. And I thought we need to find a way to make our space not only a space where children go only because they have to go as a part of a school trip, but also to a place where they will go because they want to go. Something like Disneyland or some other type of more adventurous activity. Perfect. So this is one of the newest hall in the museum, and it's quite nice. But if we go down a little bit in this document, yeah, then this is how actually the museum looks like. So most of the things you see, they're first ugly, they're giving not really a lot of information, and at the same time, they're a little bit boring because it's not something unique. And then Game On project came on. I apply to become an ambassador, a young ambassador in my country, because I'm studying bats actually. So I'm a biologist working on how climate change are affecting bat population. And during the application process, there was one question: what is your wildest dream about educational work? And I was like, okay, it's a pandemic, I'm locked down, I will be as crazy as possible. And I wrote the idea about the escape room, being absolutely sure that this is something costly, so and it will take a lot of time to be created. So I was sure that they won't take it, but I think they're crazy enough. So they decided that it's a nice opportunity, and we started the process straight away almost. And yeah, so I told you about my background a little bit, but I think it's important because the escape room is not devoted on my personal background, so it's not about bats. I specifically decided not to include anything about bats inside because I wanted to collect actually information about different aspects of the problem. And even though bats are actually quite an interesting animal, especially in terms of climate change, because they're quite sensitive to the changes. They are night active, they rely on insect, they hibernate, they live very long, they have only one baby per year, and so on and so on. So the list is very long. And at the same time, they're also really important, but there are multiple other cases like this. So we decided to focus on different things, but this is how the whole idea started. Yeah, and I think climate change is actually a very good problem to become a game in a way, because in escape room there are several important things, and one of the things is the urgency. So you have a limited time to do something, and it's quite similar to the topic of climate change. And at the same time, climate change is a huge issue. So we all are aware of all the problems that climate change are leading to. And at the same time, for me as a biologist, I know how this is going to affect everything on life. So not only humans, not only bats, everything. And in some way, like looking at this map, it doesn't tell you that much. Oh, some average temperature are changing, but yeah, from 12 to 6 degrees doesn't sound that from minus 12 to 6 degrees, it doesn't sound that much, but in all the aspects, it's actually a huge changes, because when you look at the graph of how temperatures are changing throughout the history of life, it's like tuk, 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 tuk. And then when it comes to the industrial revolution, everything is going up. So obviously there is a huge consensus among scientists. So all the scientific literature about climate change, 99.9% of all the studies are actually completely agreeing that climate change is anthropogenically driven, and there are more than 1 million different studies that are showing how this is affecting all life forms on Earth. So even if even if Jordan Peterson decide to say another stupid things about climate change, you need to know that it's actually, there is not a debate, because when you have such a high percentage of similarity in opinion among scientists, then you don't need a debate about this. But the information is not spread in a very consistent way, and also because, I mean, humanity in general tends to dramatize the survival of mankind. So there has always been the apocalypse coming behind the corner. So people are kind of immune towards these thoughts, so they don't think it's so so urgent. But yeah, for this issue, it's really important to take the local context, because each country is different, and the perception of people in different countries is totally different. One survey from Bulgaria from 2018 showed that 80% of the people trust nobody but their closely relatives. So they have zero trust in authorities, they have zero trust in society, and they trust only their closest relatives, which is very scary in terms of spreading information. And this was absolutely obvious with the COVID pandemics. Nobody trusted the vaccines, nobody trusted the opinion of the scientists, and it will be the same for climate change and any other issue, unless we find a way to really engage with people in a more playful manner, so that they are not scared to death from the very beginning. And yeah. So how you design an escape room? There are several important things. First of all is the time limit. So when you enter like an escape room, you have a limitation of time, which kind of urges your action. So you cannot just stay on one puzzle for the whole 70 minutes. You need to try to find a way to solve all the puzzles, and the only way you can do this is actually if you play with your team. So most of the games in every escape room are actually developed. They're not that complicated, first of all, but there are a lot inside, so that you can get an insight from different perspective of like different problems and so on, and at the same time to be able to really communicate with each other. And I think one of the most important thing is actually feel something. And I think from I watched the board game presentation yesterday. The difference between escape room and a board game is actually that in an escape room you are getting inside of a devoted space. So it's a new reality actually, where you, like everything is different. It's a new reality. You're outside of work. You're outside of your home. You're with your friends on a mission, and I think this is quite powerful in a lot of perspective, because you can actually feel different issues in a more realistic way. And also, of course, you need to have the information behind it. So actually in Bulgaria, this is the first educational escape room, but around the world, more and more educational escape rooms are being created. A few years ago in Boston, they created another escape room about climate change, but it was just a short-term one. It was in a park, and this gave them the opportunity to build something more exciting, because they had this water slide, and if you don't manage to escape the room, you're just going to be flushed away, which everybody felt more serious recently, since all the floodings in Europe. But this room actually allows, we wanted to create something like this, but from from the museum I work, they warned me that they'll fire me. So yeah, so we were not really able to do something so exciting, but also because our room is going to be long term, so we needed to build a stable environment. So another issue that we were trying to engage people with is actually the image of scientists. Like in Bulgaria, still when you say scientist, people think of this old guy. They don't think of me. Like even when I say I'm scientist, they don't believe I'm scientist, and I need to speak for 3 hours, and they still won't believe I'm scientist. So yeah. And then on the other hand, complicated issues like climate change, you cannot have a single scientist. You know, it's kind of silly to think that only one person is like the greatest scientist about climate change. You need so many different specialists. You need just a huge amount of people to work together to find things and so on. So the second image, have you watched this series about Chernobyl? It's a great series. And this scientist, this is an actually artificial image of a group of scientists. So we decided to create something similar, an image of a scientist, because our escape room is actually the lab of a scientist from our museum. And the story goes. So behind every escape room, you need to have a story. Our story was about Dr. Irma Zelaskova. She was this incredible scientist working during 1980s. And she was a pioneer. This was actually the first year when scientists were actually acknowledging that things are changing with our climate, and we need to dig more into it. And her image is actually this collective image of all scientists since 1980s until nowadays. And so she's imaginary scientist, and she went on a mission with her boat to the Pacific Ocean. She was trying to collect data about animal species that have never been discovered. So they are new species to science, but most probably they will go extinct if she doesn't go on this mission. Unfortunately, at one point she just disappeared, so her boat was found near the coast of one island. I forgot the name, and her audio diary was also in the boat. And 30 years later, actually, we were able to open her lab, and then we found another evidence that she was creating, and we're letting the team inside of the room with the mission to not only save the world, because it's silly to think that this team will save the world, but mainly to gather her information, because it's lost in her lab, and it will never be open to the public if they don't do it. So their quest is not just to save something and to escape a room, but also to spread the knowledge they learned during their trip. For escape rooms, it's really important to have elements where you actually dampen some of the senses. So the beginning of the escape room is actually dark, so they have only some torches, and the idea behind this is it's not only symbolic because energy, light, and so on, but it's also to kind of draw them into this new reality so that they can view the place in a different way, because they come with their thoughts and their problems and their boss and their wives or whatever. So they're coming with their own reality, but in order to be really immersed into the new world, the world of our escape room, you need to switch off their vision so that they can feel the reality of Dr. Zhelaskov. And then, of course, as every escape room, this one has different puzzles. And I'm going to just briefly show you some of the elements. Actually, behind every element, there are a lot of scientific information. So, for example, for some of the issues, because Bulgaria is building more and more roads, we have a lot of problems about one road that is between Bulgaria and Greece, and the government want to build a highway in a very special place, but we are against it. And most of the time people do not realize that roads connect people, but they disconnect wildlife. And to be able to really get this puzzle, you really need to think about this as well. So behind each of the elements, like this element is actually not so much about some scientific facts, but how scientific facts are built. Because because people think that, oh, scientists, they go and they document and that's all. No, most of the time we do experiments, and with these experiments are actually really time consuming, and you repeat some silly movement over and over again to be able to really say something. And in one of the game, the players needs to do exactly the same. And they find it very boring, but that's the idea actually. We want them to understand that, like, the way we find evidence is not by just looking at this and thinking, yeah, this is this and that's all. And if some scientists say that, oh yeah, this is this and that's all, then they're not scientists, because actually behind scientific information there should be so many repetitive experiments that they always say the same thing. And to be able to prove something as fact, you cannot just read something and be very certain about it. You need to test it. And yeah, we are trying to engage with this element as well. Of course, there are other elements where they actually literally need to save something. In our case, it was a soil near Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. And other elements are actually presenting some things that they're a general knowledge, but nobody knows. Actually, how many of you think that they're more human-made stuff in terms of mass than the whole mass of everything alive on the planet? Who do you think that's true? Do you think that the mass of all the man-made things is greater than the mass of all the living things, including plants, trees, and so on? Everything. No, no. No, just the man-made things like tables, materials. Yeah, do you think? Raise your hands if you think so. What do you think? I'm asking everything. All the living things. So the ocean, like not the water, but everything living in the water. Yes. You think so? Okay, raise your hands. Let's see. No, actually, human-made stuff are way more than all the living things on the planet all together, including bacteria, plants, all the trees, everything. So you can imagine the layer of non-biological stuff on the planet is actually huge. So if an apocalypse happens now and everything dies off, and in 300 years aliens come to the planet, everything will be covered with a huge anthropogenic layer. Such a huge layer periods of honor has created anything like this. And yeah, so one of the games is related to this. We are actually not you can see a lot of extinct species, a lot of species that we know nothing about, and a lot of species that are going to extinct during our lifetime. So during the whole game, some of them you can see that there is light there, other light disappeared, and so on. So you can really feel what's going on. But our main idea was not to really make people upset about it, because actually I'm very optimistic, because I think that 200 years ago even biologists were serial killers about nature. And I think nowadays humans are way more responsible about conservation. They actually feel it more, and they have better connection with nature in a way that I don't think humans has ever been. The only problems that we are way too much, and we know how to use resources way better. That's the only issue. I don't think it's so much an issue of they don't care that much. I think it's an issue of just having the opportunity to live a way better life. But actually, if you talk with somebody from 200 years ago, they would not even know about conservation. They will not even think that this is something that we can discuss. They will even think that we are absolutely crazy, that we are spending so much of our energy to protect something else, because the world is actually way different, and I think way more engaged with everything around. So I'm actually really positive about this. And if you ever decide to build an escape room, you need at least 2 years, at least, because it, like, all the elements take a lot of time. You need, if it's going to be an educational room, you need scientific experts. You also need experts about escape rooms. So we were really lucky because two of our friends, they were actually creating escape room, and one of their escape room is listed in the top 5 escape rooms in the world. So they were really experienced about how to make the puzzles, and so on and so on. And for me, it was really difficult because they were like, oh, not so much information. And I was like, but that was only the beginning. So you need to balance between how much information you give, because you don't want to bore the people. You want them to be engaged, but at the same time, you don't need to say everything. You cannot say everything. And even if you say 100 facts, they will remember only a few of them. So better to kind of focus on the most important things, and then if you make them excited about the room, maybe they will learn something more on their own. And also you need the story. I think the story is quite interesting. Probably, I don't know if how did you find the story about the scientist? What is your impression? Yes, you want to burn our room.
Well, you had more of water than fire in your room, so maybe I would flood it. But I think the story was something that made me interested in the escape room, and something I would like to discover more about and learn about the story itself. So if I were to go around and listen to the story, I think it would make me really interested in the escape room, because I find the story really, I mean, it's crazy, like she just disappeared. And so, yeah, I think that's something that interests people probably.
Yeah, I think the story is super important, and not all the escape rooms have a real story behind it. And our story, even though it's a fake, it's actually one part is fake, because Zelaskova, that's the family name of my best friend that I'm working with. And then our teacher, he disappeared a few years ago. He was a great mountain climber, and he vanished during one of his expeditions. So it's actually also a real story. And we know that when they're these special people that actually leave so much behind them, that once they're gone, there is a huge gap between their discoveries because they have collected so many data that you like most of the things I have been working with him for like 10 years. And I'm like, what is this? He was doing this as well, and we cannot even publish his things for our lifetime. So information is actually something that is really linked to the people, and people are not forever. And that's why I think the whole story for me is like really important. And I know that this is something that is missing in most of the escape rooms. So if you start escape room, definitely think about a story that is personally important for you, and then I'm sure you can actually spread it in a way that people will find it exciting. And now the room is open. These are actually some of the first visitors. Most of the reviews are positive. Of course, there are things that will be integrated better so that they're more understandable, because when we were discussing, we know all the information, and people sometimes they cannot see some important things. So now we'll add some things. Actually, last week I went with one of the teams so that I can observe the story and how they are actually dealing with everything inside. And I forgot to mention that it's actually in the bunker underneath the museum, so it's a really a hidden place. And they can really merge into the whole thing, and it's really made like a scientific laboratory. And yeah, and some important things, because the project is going to continue. This escape room will live way behind the game on project, which I think is something really nice. And also the funding from the groups that we are collecting is going to be used for something that the Bulgarian Biodiversity Foundation has been doing for like years. Actually, they're giving grants to young students and conservationists so that they can do some type of scientific or conservation work. And they have been helping many different people. They have been helping me like already 2 times with my scientific research, and we were hoping that this will help way more things, way more people, and way more things to happen in our country. And because this room is actually self-sustainable, it will all the money will help it be there for a long period of time. And also, I think the element of it's not for free, and I think this is actually important element, because when people go there, they want to go there. It's not that somebody is making, oh, it's a for free event, you need to go, because there are plenty of events like this where children or students are just extremely like they're made to be there. And in this case, I think it that also kind of in a way filter for people that are excited, but also people that goes to escape room not necessarily are actually excited about conservation or climate change and so on. So I think it's a great way to kind of invade and gather more volunteers and so on. And another idea we had behind it is actually to put the politicians there. For some of them, we're not really sure we will open the door if they don't manage to escape. But anyhow, we think that this kind of engagement, they will like it in a way, because it will give them publicity. And at the same time, they might grasp the problem in a better angle. And if you have any question with this, I will close my presentation and open a discussion. I'm happy to answer. And maybe Jordanka, she is also part of the creation. You can ask us both.
I wonder how difficult was it to discuss this with museum and to get their permission?
Very difficult. They thought so. The first time I mentioned the idea, one guy was like, "You're trying to make our museum a circus." So that was the first reaction, but I knew that will happen. So I was like, okay, let's give them 2 weeks more. Then we'll discuss again. And it took like 1 year to really convince them, actually. because the museum is part of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, and I mean, all kind of new ideas sounds a bit scary and dangerous. So it was okay. I mean, at the end they were convinced, and some of them actually participated in the process. So it was good, but it takes time. It was easy for us because I worked there, but also it felt like job threatening at some points because, for example, the guys who were creating the games, they were like, "Oh, let's do this," and I was like, "No, no, no." No, this won't be accepted well, and like they wanted to have this bow that the scientist was using to find the future and to alter the future, and I was like, this won't be accepted well. So all kind of strange things, and I think it's interesting to collaborate with people from so many different fields actually, because for them really the scientific part of this was actually boring, and then we were able to merge the different perspective and to make it more human, for everybody in a way. So yeah.
I just had a question about the first people who actually went to try the escape room. Did you have a chance to talk with them and have like a feeling of their reactions, and also what kind of people was it? Was it like organized groups coming with, I don't know, schools or in a like specific context, or just like family or friends coming to the museum and discovering that there's an escape room behind?
Yeah, so the first groups were actually experienced escape room players. So there are teams in all countries. It's quite a popular thing. So it's good to be tested by experienced people, because if you put unexperienced people, they will be wondering about things way more, and you want to see how the most experienced people will deal with the room and the least experienced. So after them, we had a school group organized by us, so they were part of the testing period. And then, but these people, they sign up on their own. I actually know some of them, but they didn't knew I'm involved in this, and they went there, so I could talk with them, and they like it. So they're kind of from my kind of background in a way, so they knew a lot about climate change initially. So they said that they learn some things, but they would like it if it was more educational. And but then you need to balance between those things, because some people that are there just for the fun, they'll find it extremely boring if there is too much information. So you can't please everybody. You need to know that there will be there should be balance, and you need to make it as general as possible, because this is supposed to be for the people that are not so much aware anyway. Yeah, but it's really interesting, because the school groups, they were struggling with some tasks that the older groups were not, and the opposite. So they were this task with the balls I show you. The children are just they do it for 1 second. My friends that I was just observing last week, they did it for 30 minutes. It was super complicated for them, and they were like, "What?" They could not believe that these children were actually so good at this. They thought this is really complicated. So you need to balance, and that's why having experts on this type of puzzle is quite important. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah.
I think mine is a very quick one. It's about the age appropriateness of, well, not in terms of being appropriate, but what is a good age for engaging in the escape rooms? Have you noticed some insights there?
Well, it's for 12 until 80, let's say. I think, yeah, 80, because there's steep stairs. That's all. But yeah, I think, yeah. Maybe also a little bit younger children, but it really depends. Yeah. they find it really interesting because the laboratory is with all the things inside are from 1980s, so they're quite old. There is this type of phones, you know, where you kind of yeah, with the wheel and so on. And some of the groups were taking selfie with this and being, man, this is crazy. So there is this effect as well.
Yeah, I had a quick question for you. Personally, what was the most difficult? What was that you found the most challenging or difficult? Was it because you mentioned that it's really nice to have people like the people that help you put up the whole logistics because they, but also for them it was easy that if you put too much information it would be a bit too much I don't know scientific. But also how did you deal with working with people that were so different from each other, and was it the thing that was the most challenging?
Well, it's always challenging, but I think I like this because for me, just arguing in general, it's a good thing. So it means that you're in the border between something that needs to be changed in a way. So I like it, but that's I think in science, if you don't like this, then you quit very soon. For them, I think this was more challenging, but because I was like, no, this is not no this is not scientific. No, we need to make it like this and so on. So I think for them it was harder that I am there and observing with the eye of somebody who is really precise about things. But yeah, this is difficult. Obviously, I mean, in general, collaborating with people is complicated, but also I think really exciting. So I actually enjoy this. I'm not really sure for them, but you always need to balance between. I think just being honest obviously means that you won't be favorable. So yeah, and also just building up the facts around the games is quite challenging. It's not necessarily something that can happen straightforward. Uh, but also, it's not necessarily to happen because you can always like have the element and know the information behind it. And if they enjoy it, they will also find a way to learn why. Okay. Well, thank you for your attention.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the session of the Wilderness Camps. I will present myself and then I give the word to my colleagues. My name is Svetlana, and I'm going to present one of the Wilderness Camps that was organized by the Bulgarian Biodiversity Foundation, and it will be very interesting. And this is my colleague. Yes, these are my other colleagues from the Bulgarian Biodiversity Foundation.
So yeah, I think everybody knows me from the previous lecture, but anyway, I will introduce myself again. My name is Nia, and I'm going to present you two of the camps we organize in Bulgaria, one in Vitusha mountain, really close to Sofia, and one in Sakar. And yeah.
Awesome. And my name is Mario. I see some familiar faces from the Stranja Wilderness Camp, so I look forward to talking more about it in a moment.
Cool, yeah, and I'm Markus from Germany, and yeah, I'm from the Romero initiative and also participated in one camp, and that's what we want to talk about with you today. And Svetlana, do you want to add something, or shall I already start? So let's get the wilderness camp started. Okay, all right, cool. I hear myself here. Maybe I go here. It's better. Okay, so I was very privileged to participate in the Shumava National Park Wilderness Camp last year. Inga was there as well, and Bori was there as well. Stana was there as well. Yeah, nice. So it was a very awesome camp. It took place in August last year. For those who don't know, the Shumava National Park is close to also the German border, and it's sharing the barrier with Bavarian region, and Shumava National Park and Bavarian National Park, they are forming one big national park. And yeah, as you've seen on, or as you see on the picture, we have been a big group of, not everyone was on the photo, but we have been around 60 young ambassadors from 7 countries. And I like the message with one goal: to stop climate change. So this was our purpose to be there. So what was the camp about? What have we done there? By the way, you see down a lot of pictures I have selected to underline the writing you're reading. So the goal of the camp was to restore old mires, so old wetlands. Why they have been dry? Because they have been drainaged for peat cutting. Peat cutting was done to use peat for heating and also as for plant growing. So, however, nowadays we all know that wetlands are very important for our environment. I will come on a later slide. So, but in overall, it was an international exchange. So we have learned from each other about different topics. We have shared knowledge. It was a nature preservation, and also for me, in my personal opinion, an adventure activity. I've never done such a thing before. It was a lot of fun, even though it was work. So, but I was very passionate about, and for sure, this camp was also for raising awareness about wetlands, especially. So more in detail about our activities. As you have or see on the first picture, we have built wooden dams exactly to hinder the water from spilling off, so that it stays in the dry land, so that the dry land can become a wetland again. And we have also blocked old drainage canals in the woods. You will see it just in a second in one of the videos. And yeah, on this picture especially, we have cared about a special animal, the black goose. We have constructed breeding sites in flat grassland, so they have cutted the grass, and we've shared the grass in different areas so that the black goose will find a space where it can breed calmly. And yeah, and also you might know this guy here. We had a communication workshop with Andrew, and was also very interesting to talk about communication and how can we raise more awareness for our environment. All right, and then I think that's the video. I think I need to click one more. Don't care about the text. It's more important that you gain some more impressions and insights. This is a German team, by the way. So Inga, we were very lucky that you haven't fallen into the water so that you can be with us here. So as you could have seen, maybe it was quite of hard work. No, just kidding, but it was very fun work, adventure work. Also to mention, we had lots of experts there telling us every evening about biodiversity, animals, protection measures, etc. about around Shumawa National Park. So it was very interesting. We gained lots of insights, a lot of knowledge. And yeah, it was overall a very interesting camp. And just to mention shortly the long-term effects of wetlands, for those who don't know yet, so wetlands are important for efficient water management, and it can help us against droughts and floods, so BOS, weather extremes, and it saves us the natural water balance in the wood, so that trees are not easily or weak against plant diseases. And yeah, wetlands are helping to cool the environment so that it stays more cool rather than raising in temperature. It's a very important CO2 storage, and so the plants falling into the water of wetlands are there like for a long time, so the carbon dioxide is stored there. And for sure, wetlands are habitat for many, many important species of flora and fauna. And yeah, my personal story of this wilderness camp is that it was my starting point to become an activist. So before I had a green heart, and I was quite sensitive for having a sustainable lifestyle, but I was not really active in motivating other people. So since the camp, I really tried to convince and to act as an ambassador and to spread the word about a better future so that we can really ensure our quality of life in accordance with nature. And that's it from Shumawa Wilderness Camp, and then I will hand over to Svetlana.
All right, so the camp that I'm presenting is the camp at the Riva National Park. That's in Bulgaria. And it was way shorter, so it was 3 days in August again, which is probably the best time to go because its temperatures are quite nice. And you can see in the picture we were hiking everywhere. So to just give you an idea of the geography, these are 7 Riva lakes, and this is the Alpine region on the Riva mountain, which is, well, on the southwest, more or less, of part of the country. And then the topics were mainly focused on climate change, and also the Alpine region, and those 7 lakes that I just mentioned, they are glacier lakes, which means that they're feeding its water body from the rainfall and from the melting of the snow. And we will see what are the implications. All right, so we saw, first of all, the climate change effects. There were, in the group, there were experts, and one of them was a student, well, PhD candidate, I believe, who had this research on how the lakes have been changing throughout the years. So he had satellite pictures of the lakes, and he could see what is the surface of the lakes throughout the years. And what he showed us is that they are shrinking. So why are they shrinking? Well, from one side, we have the anthropogenic activity. Anthropogenic means the effects of the human activity on nature. So what that means is that we have a lot of tourism in that area because in the Riva National Park, some people built a lift which allowed for the mass tourism. Otherwise, we from the camp, we were, well, we were against that lift. So we walked instead of, we were hiking instead of taking the lift. And that adds maybe 2 hours to the trip, or maybe a little bit more. And the lift is probably half an hour. So I have never taken the lift, so I don't know how much time. But of course, this lift was not legal completely, and it was right through the national park. So you can imagine, if you were in the previous presentation from Nia, there was this image where you could see how roads are actually crossing wildlife habitats, and that's also why we don't support the lift. But it is there, and there is also a hut after the lift and a lot of tents around the lakes where people are living there. They're staying for a while. And because there is such, let's call it mass tourism, there are a lot of paths, and people, when they walk on the paths, they have almost become like cemented. So there is a very clear path which is from the steps of the people, and that has also effects on the wildlife there and the biodiversity and the whole ecosystem. And then on the other side is the climate change, so the global warming. We have much higher temperatures from the past, and we also have more sunlight, which means that there is more evaporation from the lakes. So from that aspect, the lakes are becoming, their water is evaporating more. On the other aspect, warmth and sunlight is the best condition for the algae, so the water plants, which you could see if you really zoom into this picture. But because we have this algae, when they die, which eventually happens once a year, they go at the bottom of the lake and they stagnate there. So you can imagine that then the surface of the lake becomes even more narrow and the depth is more narrow. So that allows for the water to become even warmer and evaporate even faster. And you could see on the last picture, those are the 7 lakes. And we also saw that a lake next to another one can experience climate effects very differently because of its position. So maybe this one has much more shadow than the other ones, so which would result in less sunlight and less evaporation. So it's more protected naturally. And on the first picture, you could see the snow. So that's the snow that melts and gives water to the lake. It feeds the water body. There are no rivers that feed them, so the glacier lakes are dependent only on that water. And this is also way above the sea level. So in the first picture, this is actually after the lakes, and you would see there's no trees and mainly just grass. There are not really bushes, because that's the characteristic also of the alpine region. And then the snow coverage that is on the second picture, and on the third one is the hike that we took to get there. And I give the word to Nia.
Thank you. Okay, just continuing on the topic about mountains. So the first camp that Bulgaria organized was actually in Vitusha mountain. It's located right next to Sofia. So this is the capital, and you can see the mountain almost from every corner in every street of the city. So it's really, really beautiful. Actually, the highest point of the mountain is above 2,000 meters. So it's really high. You can actually go skiing after work during the winter. Unfortunately, this period is shrinking. So nowadays it's about 10 days per year. 10 years ago, we were like skiing for 2 months. So it's a very nice place to do a camp. And actually, mountains in general, they're a wonderful natural laboratories where you can study the effect of climate, because you have the altitudinal gradient and everything changes, and you can actually observe in one mountain, you can observe how things are adapting or moving higher where the temperature will be colder, and so on and so on. On the other hand, on the other side of this mountain is the longest Bulgarian cave called Duhota. So it's a really wonderful place to do a camp. The whole idea behind the first camp was on one side to hear from some experts. So we had two main topic about around the camp. The first one was how climate change is affecting forest. So actually Vitosha was one of the first natural parks in the whole Balkans. And there are two natural reserves on top of the park. One is Torfaното Бранище and the other one is Bistriškoto Branište. Whoever is able to repeat that at the end of the presentation, we get a prize. So stay tuned. I won't repeat them again. So anyhow, in one of the reserves, there is a huge bark beetle problem. You know what is bark beetle? Yeah, and actually climate change and bark beetle, they have a very, very good relationship. I think they're boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're not sharing this. And during the warmer periods, this means that the trees are not able to make enough, how was it? Smoa in English. You know this thing that the trees create? No, amber is the material afterwards. Yeah, anyhow, yeah, so the thing that the tree creates, so the trees are more able to, how? Yeah, this one. Yeah, sweat, let's say it's sweat from now on, but not like human. So when it's too warm, the trees are not able to make a lot of it, which means that they'll be more susceptible to infestation. And here you can see that the problem is actually growing, because sometimes when there is a warmer period, this means that there will be a huge storm, which means that this will spread larvae of the bark beetles across the mountain. And I will just go back to the previous photo. Actually, here is where like a huge storm at one point completely devastated the whole forest there. So there are a lot of links and things to be learned and study. So this was one of the perspective of the camp. So this guy here, Alexander Duchev, he was also part of the previous government, and he's like, he's the forest guy. He just loved the forest. He's doing a lot of like protective work, and we're really happy because he was there to tell us such a great story. Like we were talking with Jordanka, that I remember every single word he said. And then the next thing we were talking about was about the peatlands, and one of the other reserve that I'm not repeating the name for the sake of the prize is actually a really important peatland holding a lot of the water for the citizen of Sofia. And we were able there to see a lot of interesting things. There is a insect eating plant there as well. Like it's a super tiny one. It took us 5 hours to get to this plant, and then we were like, really, for this? But anyhow, we were really motivated. We were in so much water. It was a really nice experience overall. I won't read the facts. You can read, I guess. I hope. And another aspect of the camp was actually because it was the first camp, and this was the first time all the selected ambassadors were gathering together. It was just to get to know each other, and also to learn how to be an ambassador, because it's not a trivial task actually, because it requires not only knowledge, but also a way to reach people, a way to speak, a way to be confident, to not be afraid as well. So it's a very complicated issue. So we had several lecturers from different backgrounds. Like one of them was a photographer, so he was really showing us how to tell stories with pictures, which it's a useful tool for everything, not only for climate change, but also for just keeping the family memory. So it was really, really, really good. And then we had another lecture about storytelling in general and how important it is. And I think it was super useful because everybody is afraid before speaking in front of a public, and whoever is saying is not afraid is lying. It's just embarrassing because you might embarrass yourself, and it's quite scary. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to connect. And if you learn how to be more confident in front of people and to know that, okay, I'm not going to say exactly what I'm planning to say. Most of the time, I'm not even getting to that point of saying what I was planning to say, but it is a conversation, and I had to look at everybody and see, okay, they're listening, she's working, and so on, and to analyze. It was not a criticism, but anyhow, so this camp was really devoted on this, and I think it was a great way to start all the other initiatives. And to also connect and create the future project. This is where we discussed the first time the escape room, and I realized that I should not say everything I'm thinking. And I'm going to tell you about the other camp I was part of, but this time I was not a participant. I was actually giving lectures, and this camp was having totally different focus because so first of all, it was in a different location. So here is Sofia, right? Yeah. And then we went here to Sakar Mountain, close to the border with Turkey. It's again a national park, and it's actually way understudied. So if we know a lot about Vitush Mountain because it's close to the capital here, we know almost anything. Like I was looking at all the list of publication from this place, and there are like 2 that are actually worth reading. So really unstudied area. And the whole idea behind the camp was actually to gather some real scientific data. So the participants were not only learning about different groups of animals, but also collecting data for them. So it was really nice because they get to see the scientists, do things with the scientists, and maybe have their name acknowledged in a paper. So they went to different surveys. For example, this is not a musical instrument, even if it looks like this. It's a harp trap. We use it to catch bats. So during the night, they're flying, and they cannot see these very tiny strings, so they just hit themselves and fall in the trap. No, no, no. They're just like, what's happened? That's literally the move. Yeah, but actually that's one of the best way to catch bats. The other ways with mist nets. This is the mist net, and this is the bat. And my husband, when he saw this light, and he was like, "Oh, it's so cute that you call yourself ugly." Anyhow, yeah. So. Yeah, the other ways with mistnet, this is way more invasive. You can see how stressed I am. You can see the bat is biting the net. So hard trap, good. Mistnet, not that good. Anyhow, I think I can tell you, like, I can talk for bats for like hours and hours, and it won't mean anything to you. But once I catch a bat, and I come to you, and I'm like, okay, this is Rhinophos hipposideros, this guy is blah, 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 blah. And you won't listen to what I'm saying. You just observe this crazy looking animal, and you love it straight away because they're really fluffy, and you build a real connection. And I think in this camp, the idea is to really, I mean, just saying about nature is not like being outside and getting dirty and actually experience something. So even if we invest tons of money at public lectures and so on, it won't do the same work as this type of lecture where you really get to see the things, because you see not only the ugly ones. This is the ugly one actually. So it's a horseshoe bat. You can see this funny nose. Yeah, they are really into funny nose, all the bat species. But that's not the point. But you can also see the scary ones. And sometimes the scary ones, they look scary, but they're just very cute. Okay, not cute. Just not as scary as you used to think they are. But also you can see the pretty one. And you can run after the pretty one which is really fun. Like you can, just being biologists in general is like getting these nets, running in the field, and knowing what real freedom is. And then when you listen to what the scientists have to say at the end of the day, then you really, really build this connection. You remember because you have emotional feelings about the butterfly you chase and you manage to catch, and then you know the scientific name and why, like, actually the butterfly poo goes on the top of the beautiful wings and makes the color. That's very exciting, and so on. But also you create people that are willing to come with you, and that's really important, because not everybody wants to go outside during the night and catch bats. For me, that was a huge struggle, because when I started my PhD, I had 2 volunteers, and after every field trip, they were like, "We're not coming with you anymore." But then during these camps, so this girl, Steli, she was with me in the field for 5 nights in a row. She didn't sleep at all. She was able to catch 200 bats. And this is how you build up your professional network. And in our case, we cannot pay tons of money for field assistants, obviously. But if we inspire them that this is important, because I truly believe that bats are important. And yeah, you know, I'm crazy about bats already. So yeah, I was able to also find some really like long-term volunteers and people that are going to be my colleague soon. Yeah, and so they helped me with my PhD, and I'll stop talking because I know I talk a lot. Thank you.
I'll have to make a disclaimer that no animals were hurt in the processes of catching. Just so you know. All right, where are we at? We're at the strangest of Stranja. I would just want you to step back for a moment and imagine you're somewhere in the mountains of Stranja, and where traditions are kept as they are for centuries now, and people enjoy playing a horror dance, just like in this huge circle in the middle of the forest nearby the village of Bulgari. Carrying the sacred icons to this little what could be a temple, and having these experiences as they are very pure and natural, in not in a church setting but in the natural environment. And with this in mind, I don't know how many people I see some familiar faces from the camp. However, probably not all of us have heard about or learned a lot about the Nestinari, the fire dancers. I would like to show you a little video. I hope it works. Let's see now. I hope it's, yes. No. Right. Where am I? Right. I have some assistance from, well, I can, but it's going to be a lot of skipping. Okay, I think I can do it. The review of. Okay, can you press play so I don't screw it up again? Oh, go back 2 slides. Go back. And press play. So here we can see a short script of the traditional Nestinari dance. Okay, so some of us were fortunate enough to witness this in person in the beginning of June of this year during the wilderness camp in Stranja Mountain. Others, obviously, not so lucky to see it in person. However, the I don't know, the purity of such traditions are very interesting, and the energy that they carry. However, there is an interesting story behind this region of Bulgaria, specifically that it's the what is known to be a very drastically demographically declining region, not just in Bulgaria but in the whole world. And this is sort of a site from one of the villages that we also visited. We stayed there for 3 days in the village of Brashlan, translated to the Ivy Village, with its typical architecture for what you would expect in such place. And to give you a better understanding of where we were, is not far from Sakar Mountain. That's where Nia's second camp took place, in Sakar Mountain, and this in the furthest southeast part of Bulgaria, the southern eastmost part of Bulgaria. This is Stranja Mountains. It actually spreads down to Turkey. So Stranja Nature Park borders with Turkey on the south, and to the east with the Black Sea coastline. So it's a very unique ecosystem in itself. And here is a map of the nature park, and I can just break it down of the places where we visited. The oldest reserve in Bulgaria, known as Silkosia, along with the village of Kosti, Brashlan, Bulgari is where I showed you that video of the Nestinari dancers. We also visited places alongside the Black Sea coastline, and overall it was a very enriching experience, not just for me, but for, of course, people that also took place in the camp, from what we received as feedback. And we did mention experts in the field. I cannot discredit them, and of course not mention the importance of people who know what they do and care about and are passionate about their work. So considering how important it is to learn from these people working in the field with different stakeholders, here we will pretty much throughout the whole camp we were learning about the importance of forest management within the nature park, along with just how certain areas of the forest are left by themselves, a concept which is nowadays presented as rewilding. And here I've decided to just show the difference between large and small, and just the importance of different sort of biodiversity, and how crucial it is to have, of course, old growth forests and everything that goes with them, as different types of fungi and so on and so forth. Continuing on to where the mountains meet the sea is this magnificent place of Stranja Mountains, as I showed you on that image of Stranja Mountain National Park map. It's very interesting to consider just how diverse the ecosystem there is, mainly because of aspects to see that evergreen forests have preserved themselves so well throughout the glacial periods, and to also witness how well interlinked certain habitats are with regards to its closeness to the Black Sea region. And with this in mind, I would like to mention some of the very rare and beautiful flora and fauna found within Stranja Mountain, such as species of orchids, and to not, of course, miss out on the very rare and hard to see sometimes flowers and other plants, especially growing on the sand dunes, which are under enormous threat from construction. And for this, I did pledge a petition to encourage people to, not just people from society, but of course politicians, to notice the importance of these habitats, especially with events which have sort of happened in the past few weeks. As many of you might have heard about the destructive forces happening within our regions, which are not only leading to sort of material destruction, but also to human deaths. And with this in mind, it's very important to preserve those habitats, for not just for the future, but for the present, mainly due to the fact that these things are already happening. These are already existing crises. And if we are willing to sort of protect, it's more and to preserve what's there, it's probably important to notice just how something which might be usually overseen can act as a protective site, a buffer zone for communities that live alongside the sea. We also were lucky to visit another place called Atanasovsko Lake. It's a wetland area nearby the city of Burgas. These here are the salinas of Atanasovsko Lake. They also act as a buffer zone. This is a wetland area south of Burgas. Here at the landscape, you can see the cityscape of the city of Burgas with its neighboring wetland area called Poda. Extremely diverse. I cannot quote how many different bird species there were, but I believe it's within hundreds. And of course, the rest of the flora and fauna that's found there and probably nowhere else, specifically for speaking of some species. Now, with climate change, there's another topic, as you probably are aware, or not so, that different species start choosing new breeding grounds, and some of these species are the flamingos. As beautiful as they are, it's an interesting and controversial topic amongst ornithologists due to the fact that now they're slowly starting to make their own niche within Atanasovsko Lake, and probably they will start to breed and eventually move on to sort of overcompete other locals. And with this, I would like to not bore you anymore. And yeah, this is some of the herpetofauna found alongside Ropotamo, another beautiful nature site on the Black Sea coastline. I would highly encourage you to, if you have the chance to visit Bulgaria, you can not only travel by plane, but also you can take the train there, as some of our colleagues have done in the past. And yes, thank you. And if you have any questions, open.
Yeah, we almost got to an end. Yeah, 1 minute. We want to give you a message, Tor, because we want to have these wilderness camp to continue. So that's your task and your duty to connect with the politicians to continue these wilderness camps, because we all find it's a very good measure to activate, to gain ambassadors, and to fight climate change. So that's you need to take with you, even though we can't discuss it now in the row. But that's our call to action. Thank you.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Patricia from Hungary. I represent the MTVS organization. And today I would like to talk a bit about bird issues, because I think nowadays when we are talking about climate change, the discussion revolves about around carbon emissions or increasing droughts and something like this, and relatively little heard about animal population declines, especially birds. So I thought, as a bird ringer, I brought a presentation about birds. I'm gonna skip this because I would like to. It is not that important. But first, for better understanding the continuous slides, I would like to talking about a bit in general, how does climate change impact on birds? Maybe the most known thing is changing the migration circumstances. This means, for example, maybe I can say that most of you know that most of the birds are migratory. So this means after the breeding season, they migrate to a wintering area and back then in the spring session. And during this trip, they affected by many things, like big barriers. I think you know the Sahara Desert, and I brought an example about it. Since 1920, the Sahara Desert expanded about 10%. So nowadays, the birds have to fly such a long distance to get wintering area than in the 19th. So this is a really big effect, which is impact on them. So it causes many declines in each populations. The next one is habitat changes, for example, droughts and water shortages. During these migration routes, there are such many places like oases which is drying out and they can't provide food anymore for them. And this also because of the climate change. So yeah, shifting breeding areas. I saw an article that made by a Swiss ornithologist. They showed that after 20 years, there are some species which breeding much higher nowadays than 20 years ago, which is such a big change in this short period, I think. There are some species like everyone knows maybe the blackcaps, this kind of blackbirds, and they are changes their migratory patterns, which means they are nowadays they are staying much longer in the breeding areas than before. Some of them are staying for the wintering period as well in the breeding areas, which wasn't that it wasn't like this in the previous years. So maybe this is because the greener winter or something like this. There are some other articles about changes in body size because of the warming temperatures. And the last one is timing mismatches, but I have another slide of this because I brought two examples, one from the spring migration and the other one from the autumn migration. This article and this figure is from the US, but we also have similar researches in Europe. This is a bit difficult, but I'm gonna explain it. Let's see this, I have a pointer. Oh yeah, let's see this graph in the middle of the picture. This means you have to focus on the continuous lines and the break lines. The continuous lines show the maximum and the gradations of the insects between 2005 and 2014. The break line shows the same between 1989 and 1998. Yes, and we can see there's such a big difference between the maximums. So nowadays, yeah, in this time, the maximum of the insects gradation much earlier than in the 19th, and this is a big deal because some of the birds are long-term migratories and some of them are short-term migratories, and which came earlier, the short-term ones. They when they arrived at the breeding place, they got so many insects, but the other ones which came later, they can't get enough food anymore than the previous period. So this caused a big declines in the populations. So this is a big deal in Europe and in Hungary as well. We can see that there are so many similar researches like this. This is the same with terrestrial insects, and yeah, it was aquatic insects. So this this whole thing is the timing mismatch. So there's a difference between the arriving and the insect gradation. The other example I brought from the Romanian Kitok ringing camp, because as the result of the wilderness camp, I decided to do my dissertation topic here. So I brought, I think it was obvious to to take an example from here. It is another graph. It shows that maybe, yeah, we should focusing on first with these black lines. This shows that when the bird populations are migrating, this is the half of the population that have already flown over the area. So the biggest part of the population until this point has gone. And it is the most important information for us when we are searching on, doing a research on an area or in a place. These are the days. The blue ones between 2016 and 2016 and 2017. The red boxes represents 1996 and 1997. And we can see that, for example, here, these are short time migrants. This is also interesting, but there's a big difference between the boxes, which means nowadays the blue ones, for example, Turdus marella, this is the black cap, migrates such later than before in the 90s. We can see the differences here, and maybe this is also because of the greener winter or something like that, but we are not sure about it. And there are some other species like Sylvia corocae's lesser white-throat, if somebody knows the bird species, who has the opposite effect. So they are going much earlier than before, and it is also interesting. And we just see that and try to find out why is these differences. But we are sure about that. The climate change has a really important reason of this. Okay, yeah, and next one. I also wanted to talk about a bit the public awareness through the bird ringing, because I'm also part of some groups, and I'm also, as I mentioned, a licensed bird ringer. So I wanted to say something about it, but I was wondering such a long time, how can I describe the benefits, this whole bird ringing and birding thing. And then I found an article from an African guy. His name is here, I can't say that. And it described all the things that I wanted to say, so I just put it here. And I would like to read it because it contains everything that I wanted to say. This model, so this is about bird ringing as a method to raise public awareness. This model not only changes the classical mode of education, but also serves the develop individual critical thinking skills while increasing awareness of national and global environmental issues, increasing understanding and engagement with ecology through the hand-on introduction, making emotional attachment to nature. And I think this is the key, that children and people who came in these camps or bird ringing shows, they immediately get emotional attachment to birds and through the birds to the nature. And this is a really good way to raise any kind of topic and raise public awareness about important environmental things. And for a take-home message, I put some bird ringing stations to the slide, and I would like to recommend you to search a bird ringing station in your country and try to get there and check how it works in your country, and maybe experience this emotional attachment with birds. So with this sentence, I would like to thank you for the